It's all over in Denver, Michigan, coming up with a 3-point win, and they will advance to the round of 32 on Saturday. Michigan will be taking on Texas A&M. They take care of their opponent tonight, the 12 seed in the South region, UC San Diego. It is all over in the state of Colorado. And what if I told you, if you didn't watch this game, maybe you're waking up tomorrow morning and listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube replay. What if I told you that Michigan would play the game that they have played the bulk of the year, where they would turn it over a lot? They would settle for too many outside shots. They would blow a big lead. They would, I think, shoot too many threes, miss a bunch of free throws, but they would find a way in the end to win the game. And that is what they did tonight. Almost carbon copy of a bunch of different games this year. There's only been a few games. Last week was one against Purdue, where Michigan from start to finish, you looked at it and said, wow, man, they took care of the ball. They were dialed in, everything. And it was their best game of the year. And they played that way out in California to start the year against both UCLA and USC. But other than that, this is the kind of game that they play. Is it helter-skelter on offense? The other team knows what Michigan wants to do. They want to throw it down, and that's what everybody says that when you're watching it. Throw the ball down low to Vlad, would you? Well, yeah. I mean, that's I think there's two things, and that's what I was saying too. Let's get the ball. Let's see Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, get it down to Golden. There's two things. One is that's exactly what the opponents know that. So they're trying to do everything they possibly can. The guards back off. They're leaving the shooters wide open. They're backing off to get into that passing lane. They're denying them. So there is that aspect of it when you think about, why Michigan doesn't go down there. And then we saw that play out in here in this game. I was just thinking a couple different scenarios. Let me walk through some of this. Maybe I'll get my train of thought back. This game was out in Denver. It was the dreaded 5-12, and Michigan, they jump out to a big lead. And this game looked like it was going to be over quick, and even heading into halftime, where Michigan was up 14. Then they got a free throw by Vlad early in the second half, and they're up 15. And you're like, all right, you figure there'd be some kind of run. And the Tritons, they did come back, and they pulled within one. They made a pretty big push over 5.5 minutes into the second half. But then U of M was able to get that double-digit lead back. But then you had the UCSD team tying it up with 3 minutes left. And there weren't that many close games. Arkansas and Kansas was a close game today, but there weren't that many. So this may have been the best game of the day, where you've got the 5-12, and it's Michigan, and here you are with a tie score with 3 to go. But then Michigan they gave up the lead, but it was just for 1 second or maybe 10 seconds. Because on the ensuing possession, Trey Donaldson came back and hit a 3 and put Michigan up 1. And that was with under a minute, 42.8 to go. And then U of M ends up, they didn't really get it to Vlad, but they were able to, it was Roddy Gale on a drive, and then Vlad got the offensive rebound, and he went up and was fouled, and he made both of his free throws. That was the play of the game. Put Michigan up 3, and then they came down, tried to get a 3 and didn't, and Michigan survives. I remember what I was going to say now, 2 minutes before I sat back and, seemingly forgot. I said, there's two things about being able to get the ball down low. One, the opponent does know that is what Michigan is trying to do, and they leave the shooters wide open. The other thing is that the thing that Michigan, they do a lot of, Vlad Golden's exceptional down low, Danny Wolf, the 4-5 screen and roll. Damari Burnett can really shoot it. Will Cheddar can really shoot it. Those things are true, but when it comes down to overall passing, Michigan as a passing team, they're way down. They're below average passing team, just like they're a really below average ball handling team, dribbling. That's not what they're good at. And Trey Donaldson is okay. I mean, he's their best. I mean, he's their only guy. The second guy is Danny Wolf as a facilitator and a ball handler. And like I've said many times this year, Danny Wolf is tremendous as a 7-footer, being able to be as mobile and pass and even bring the ball up. But as your second most trusted facilitator in ball handler and passer, he's below average. Namari Burnett's an exceptional shooter, but Namari Burnett, he's not great once he puts the ball on the floor. He's not a great passer. Gale, what do you want to say about him? He played okay tonight, but he's, that's not his forte. Reuben Jones, neither. So they don't have that. Kaysen he's coming around, but it's another one of those things, and it adds up to when you watch U of M play. People that are watching it, they're going crazy. They're like, well, this team, here we go again. Why does this team play like this? And there's a part of it where they're winning. You say, yeah, well, this is what they've done all year long. They just find a way to win, so you credit them there. And I think that is true. You do have to credit them. And they are into the round of 32. This is the way they played all year long. If you say at the beginning of the year when you're watching this and you're pulling your hair out, and you'd say, I can't stand watching this. This is not aesthetically pleasing basketball, which, I would have agreed with. But then they were finding ways to win and stacking up these W's. And then, it wasn't even a question whether they were going to get into the tournament. It was a question of what their seeding would be. And then they won the Big Ten tournament. So there's a part about it. You say, all right, you guys, this is the way you roll. This is going to catch up to them. I mean, it's almost caught up to them. You would say it should have caught up to them probably a half dozen times this year with the turnovers and the missed free throws and the lack of execution. It should have. But it hasn't, and so that's a credit to them. So you have to just balance that out yourself. However you want to do that as a Michigan basketball fan. You say, look, they're not great passing, they're not great dribbling, they turn it over too much, they can miss a lot of free throws. I wish they wouldn't shoot so many threes. That's what the opponents are giving them. I would think, now, having said all that, moving forward, can you say, if you're Dusty May and his staff, to Roddy Gale, I know he made one, and I know Reuben Jones did too. Can you say to those guys, hey, look, let's just cool it off on, cranking up the threes. And I know you guys, you got the green light and you're open, you think you're in rhythm, but we're just shooting too many. But overall, you look at the numbers, say, hey, it's not that bad. They were, 33%. They made 9 threes. So they say, hey, but it's watching the game and you see it. And, the 14 turnovers, we've talked about the turnovers all year long. We know the reasons. We see it, and they just, passing is not their forte. It's something that you have to do during a game. So you're going to get a lot of those. So that's where I'm at with everything. The play of the game was Vlad getting the offensive rebound and then getting fouled. And then let's see, for a stat of the game, do we have one for Michigan? They did a good job rebounding in this game. They out-rebounded the Tritons by 6. So that's where I would go there. We'll look ahead to Texas A&M on Saturday. We see some people up. March Madness, at Michigan Madness. Here we are. You're excited. You're frustrated. I think you'll wake up and you'll be like, "Hey, they've survived and they've advanced." And will it catch up to them? Look, the season's already been. I don't know if you like hearing that. I've stopped myself from saying, "Hey, the season's already a success." Hey, they played with house money. They're playing with house money. It's true, but this is what you play for. This is what you really are defined. And yeah, you'll be able to look back and say, "Oh, it was nice being able to win the Big Ten tournament. It was nice staying in the hunt for first place as long as they did." And then it was nice, winning that first round game. So, here they are. Will it catch up with them on Saturday? FL saying that I got his message. I'm not really sure what the message was, so I'm not sure that I did get it. Let's go through some of the feedback to see where the people are at. NCAA really couldn't have made it tougher for Michigan playing on Thursday and late. It wasn't pretty, but they found a way. Yeah, that's something I did not mention, and you're right about that. This was as hard on Michigan as it could possibly be. They shouldn't be playing on Thursday. That's a bad job by the selection committee putting them on a Thursday. It was a bad job by the selection committee not getting them off that 5 line. And what do they say? Thin air, Denver, whatever else. It was not a favorable draw. They did not get favorable treatment by the selection committee. So I know you can have your theory on that. I think the theory is that these guys already have the bracket made out and they don't put much into what happens on Saturday and Sunday, but they should when it comes down to it. If you're a reasonable person, I know they got a lot of different things they got to do, but you have to reward teams that all the way to the end. And you can't just rely on, they got a lot of different numbers and everything, but with somebody standing up and saying, "Hey, this isn't right." CK says pretty much everything negative we say about this team is a broken record at this point. He says U of M sucks, but amazingly keeps winning. May is awesome, period. Yeah, I don't know if they suck. They don't play aesthetically pleasing basketball. And when things are going bad for them, you want them to stop casting threes, stop telegraphing passes, and drive the lane. And so I get that, but you did capitalize, keep winning. So yeah, there's a part about that. M&B, this was closer than it had to be. They got a lot to clean up before Saturday, survive in advance. Yeah, I don't know. Sure. But they've had a lot to clean up all year long, and they have not been able to clean it up. This is the way they roll. And almost every game, I'll tell you what, M&B, I thought every game that I watched this year, with the exception of maybe that USC and UCLA game, maybe some of those non-conference games, it felt like they were closer than they had to be. Every game. A pretty good moniker from Ted, calls them the Heart Attack Wolverines. The selection committee wanted Michigan out. Yeah, well, we talked about the draw. FL saying, I'm a joke for not admitting how biased and painful to listen to the TV announcers were. I'll go with that one. Like Seth Davis was an embarrassment, embarrassed himself. Not that these guys got to put themselves out there and pick upsets, and when they don't, so they get a little pie on their face. They can, they're entertainers. Davis, he's a straight man, and he knows his stuff. He's got all this analytics and everything else, but he picked UCSD, like a lot of people did. I think more people picked this upset, this 12-5, than any other upset out there. I don't know. That's what it seems like. But for Seth Davis, I mean, he was a trident. He was like doing this like bad Scottish impersonation, and it was very hard to listen to. He wasn't very good at it. People would be like, okay, Seth, we got it. But he was already waving the white flag at halftime, and then he shouldn't have done that because look at, they had a shot to stay into it. But so yeah, the Seth Davis and the majority of the people. What do you want to say, people? The 5-12 is a dreaded slot. Everyone picks those upsets. There already was one earlier in the day, Clemson, that bowed out. So everybody was doing that. So yeah, there's a point to that. The guys that were on the game, Brendan Haywood, the big man, the former North Carolina Tar Heel, he's not much fun to listen to. He doesn't do anything. There were two calls that Michigan, he was saying, well, I don't know why they have a rule book. And I looked at both of them, like the one, they called it on Golden. He was just standing there and the guy fell into him and like sat down on Golden. I know Haywood's played a lot of ball, but I looked at that and they got Reuben Jones and another one. All right. They called the foul on him, but it was another one where it wasn't sitting there. I was like, oh, that was obvious. So, I don't know if that cleans up the part where you wanted the announcers called out on the carpet. But there you go. Big Meat thinks Dusty May is passive aggressive. Yeah, I don't know. Passive most of the time. He's pretty chill over there. I mean, he's coaching constantly. He's talking to his players. He doesn't. Here's the thing about Dusty May, Big Meek. He is different than 90% of your typical college basketball coaches who are freaking out. They spend more time on the officials, screaming at them than they do instructing their team. And you say, this guy's different. He is different that way. He's always talking to his team, but he flatlines. He does not seem to get very riled up about anything. And even when they do some of the on-game interviews and the team's throwing it into the stands, he'll just say, yeah, we got this turnover thing going again. He's just chiller than you expect. So the aggressive part, I don't know. I don't know if he's passive aggressive. I just think he's different than the majority of coaches. Ripstar saying Danny Wolf is a frustrating player to watch. Can't make any free throws and shoots 36%. Yeah, the Wolf at the charity stripe is frustrating because he is exceptional at so many different things, and then he falls apart. And then the biggest hole in his game is at the charity stripe. And his stroke looks pretty good there. It has been noted that he drops the ball down a little bit too low. Maybe he should just be keeping it up. I don't know. You say that. We're all like nickel and dime coaches, or I don't know if that's dime store coaches, whatever it is. We all have our ideas on how you should shoot free throws, how you should run your offensive sets, where the ball should be going. We've talked about a little bit of that, but having my wife was watching a game. She said, why doesn't he go to the granny shot? And so when you start down that road, it's not that bad, but it's bad enough. It should be better. Rip says Vlad definitely got fouled. Yeah, it looked like the guy slapped his arm. There were a couple of those. Yeah, FL didn't like the TV crew. That's who he's saying that I should be calling out. Yeah, this is going to be something. I'm not apologizing to anybody. I hear what you're saying. I was thinking the same thing as and really, since these guys were the darlings in the announcers, they want the Cinderella story. They want the upset. And everybody across the country seemingly was betting on the Tritons as well. And so, yeah. Big Meat talking turnovers. Yeah, the free throws, 11 of 20. Sheesh. I'm with you on that. What can you do? BK saying it's because Wolf is tired. He's out of breath. He needs to bounce the ball a few more times to get his composure. Maybe. Reps liking the clean shave. Thanks. Thanks for noticing, Rip. Appreciate that. CK says Wolf is intangibles. You better come back next season. Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't like to say 50-50. I think it would be more since I've seen him pop up. It's just ESPN. I don't know if it's the same person, but he's popped up twice in the middle of the season and even late in the season where he had his bad stretch. He was still popping up. And it just maybe it's a weak draft or whatever you want to say. He's still in the middle of the first round. It's not like he's getting mocked at 30 or something. He's still in the middle of the first round. If you're in the middle of the first round, you're likely to go. I would say today, if I had to put a guess on it, I would say he's probably 70-30 going. GA is saying they didn't rebound nearly as well as they should have. Well, they had the huge size advantage right off the bat. Was it the TV crew that said, "Oh, wow, this is a huge disparity"? Just looking at it, they just look way. They're playing 6'6" guys, and Michigan's got the Twin Towers. Now, I think this is going a little bit too far, and there you go. I think this is right. As ugly as Michigan plays at times, you got to give them some credit for being mentally tough enough to win these close games. That's it. It's what we've seen all year long. You've said probably 100 times to yourself, this is going to cost them. This is not going to work in March. It's certainly not going to work in the NCAA tournament. And then, here they are playing that game. Playing that turnover game, playing that telegraph pass game, playing that we can't get it down to the post, playing that let's have Roddy Gale and Reuben Jones cast threes. I mean, that's the game they're playing. And it's working. It's nothing that you would sit around saying, yeah, this is the kind of team, because it's the opposite. Shooting free throws, if you would have told me, hey, Michigan's going to shoot, they're going to go to the line 20 times and they're going to shoot 55%. That's a bad sign. That's going to be a bad sign for them winning. They're going to turn it over 14 times. That's about their average. But they're the worst. They're the worst at taking care of the ball in the Big Ten. One of the worst in the country. So those are not good signs, but they, just like all year long, still are able to overcome. I don't know what would be the football version, a team that has a plus minus, a big time minus in the turnover and the takeaway. But they fumble a couple times a game. The quarterback throws a couple interceptions. They're not a good tackling team. Their special teams is shoddy, and yet they win ball games. Woo! I mean, there it is. GoPal is saying when teams will double in the post and the perimeter, you have to scheme against that. I think the scheme is move the ball, and then if you're in rhythm and open, shoot a three. And you don't like it when you're watching it because Gale is not a very good three-point shooter. Jones is not a very good three-point shooter. And those guys just fire. I mean, they get it. They're feeling it. They feel it like boom. It's almost like a heat check when those guys have it. There's no hesitation. They're doing it. I do think that it was pretty obvious that Michigan's guards could take a San Diego off the dribble. Gale did it. Kason did it. Donaldson did it. These guys were able to get to the lane and get to the rack, and they were able to drive it. And you saw a little bit of that. That's the counter. That was the scheme. Hey, if you're going to give the team wide open threes, you got to knock some of those down. That's it. I said, deja vu. Michigan, go blue, 1, 2, 3, 4. I am going to claim that Michigan go blue, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the biggest Michigan basketball fan that's out there. And I haven't read what he's had to say here, but let's go through it. The fact that we've won the Big Ten tournament without much depth, Pippen and Walters out, is a testament to incredible coaching. Hopefully, if we beat A&M, Pippen can come back for the Sweet 16 for added depth. Beat the Aggies. How about that? Lions saying Michigan is extremely good. Nobody can beat the alligator in the tight game. Their opponent, death roll. Michigan plays down to their opponents. They barely won the rebounding with 2 7-footers. There have been some games, Illinois comes to mind, where Illinois sent 5 to the glass and they just pounded Michigan on the glass. And it was brutal. Second chance points, third chance points, so many opportunities to get another possession that it was tough to watch. They got blown out by 20 points at home. And then it was Maryland last week where Michigan was fabulous on the glass. They were finding their man. They were attacking the ball. And so just in the Big Ten tournament, the first game, the Friday game against Purdue, they played one of their best games of the year. They protected the ball. They played hard. You're like, wow, this was really something else. And the next day against Maryland, they were tremendous rebounding. And then they just found a way when both teams were Wisconsin and Michigan didn't have their legs, and they found a way down the stretch to win the Big Ten tournament title. They will have to rebound like they did against Maryland, against Texas A&M. That's if I'm drawing up, let's draw them up, folks. Let's get those keys out. Keys to beating Texas A&M. I'm going to go back to all those cheerleaders when I was in high school doing the rebound that basketball. Rebounding. It's like I didn't spell it right, but it's just sloppy writing. Rebounding is number 1. What else? Will it be? Let's put some things that we always put down here and then just go through them and really see if this what is going to be. So rebounding is going to be key. And then I put the 4-5 screen and roll. That is the Wolf Golden combination, getting that going. I know teams work against it, but man, when Michigan's got that going, that's when you say a superpower. You watch it and you say, that's when they're cooking. That's when they got it going. Is when they got Danny and they got Vlad and they're passing back and forth. These guys are dunking. It's like Michigan looks great. So having that 4-5, the Area 51 combo going would be big. Free throws you'd put down, although, the free throws sucked tonight and they were able to persevere, got rebounding down there again. And then you say 3-point shooting. Every team, I think, is going to say that. Now, I think you shoot the 3 well, you can win any game. So every team's talking about shooting threes. Every team's talking about free throws. And the turnovers, I should say maybe turnovers. I got rebounding twice. Execute down late. Big Meek mad about something? I don't know. This is GA is making excuses for other teams being out of gas. I don't know. Michigan's got a smaller bench than anyone else out there. You want to make a case for Purdue because they had to play an extra game. Well, that's their fault. I mean, getting the double bye is something you earn. Was Michigan State, who goes 10 deep, were they gassed? Meaning, not really. I didn't see that. No, Wisconsin just was able to make one more play, two more plays down the stretch to be able to get that game. And I don't know, Wisconsin, the thing is, both Wisconsin and Purdue, they march on. Cut them some slack. All right. Woo. Let's see if anybody else, we're kind of going through the same ones. Ferris coming in, saying it like it should be said. Survive and advance. Protect the lead. Let's go. Michigan Real Talk. Ooh, I kind of like that. Real Talk. The Big Ten tourney finishes as the NCAA selection show starts. We are the showcase game that leads into their big reveal, and they treat us like that. SMH. Yeah, well, they're vindicated now. Now they get to move on. Go Poles. Glad for Donaldson, Vlad, and Wolf, and a really good team defense. There it is. NC Lions talking about it's a Final Four team. I don't know. And I'm going to see what's going to happen now. Right. You could have been Clemson. Clemson was done in the first 5 minutes of that game. You could pretty much see it. Let's see. Linda Joe. If Michigan wins another game, I don't believe they will advance beyond the next game. This team will give you a heart attack or a stroke, go blue. Yeah, me reading that kind of did myself too. So that's good. Ugly, but gritty. Sneak. Andres. The refs were hosing UCLA, and they got dominated, and they dominated too. They did dominate. This is a nice comparison. Smash says it's like going to Cedar Point and jumping on the one of the roller coasters. That's Michigan. Yeah, you get ready. Big drops, big peaks. There it is. Yeah, I mean, it's not a pleasing way to do it. Let's see. MRT is saying about the Aggies, they don't shoot well, but they rebound hard, especially on the offensive boards. Sounds like the talk before we played Little Brother. Got to rebound hard and make more shots. I think that's right. That the experience that Michigan had against Michigan State should pay off for them coming up on Saturday. So that's it. The drive and force replace the drive and kick. They're getting it done. I'll go back to where I was at the beginning. That Michigan, it's a game that they have played the majority of this year. Tight game, could have been a bigger cushion. And most of the time it looked like they could have cruised to a victory, but they are not a put you away and just, blow the doors off and get the bus running kind of team. And that's where the passing, that's where the shooting from the free throw line, the 3-point line, come into play. But they are a team that they have found, Vlad, when he needed to make those free throws, he did. When he did need to get a big offensive rebound, he did. And Donaldson, he faded late in the year. It looked like he only played, he was a backup last year at Auburn, played big time minutes for Michigan. And he's it. He's the only guy. He has to play a lot, tons of minutes. He's the closest thing. Well, he's no Donaldson, and you're in trouble when you're Michigan. So that's what they got to have. How about this? The big Duke fan coming in. Hey, I didn't know Duke was playing until tomorrow. Survived in advance, says Jameel. This edition of the Wolverines will go as far as their ball security and free throw shooting will carry them. Here's the pro, Jameel. Great to see him. Joe D. School, McNeese. Got to be the Cinderella this year. I like McNeese. Joe Dumars. I think Trey McKinney, as I've watched his film, I've said a couple times, reminds me of Joe D. And then I like I call him a kid. I don't know how old he is. Maybe you get a little bit older, everybody's a kid. But they got a kid that comes out with a boom box and leads them out. McNeese stayed out of the locker room, and he's blasting some music. And those are he's a little darling right now of the NCAA tournament. That's it. Let's get you what's on tap. Michigan runs their record now to 26-9, getting the victory over UCSD. And let's check that upcoming schedule, and that is brought to you by the Maize and Blue Review. Give yourself or that U of M fan in your life the gift of the Maize and Blue Review for 2025. Spring football, basketball, recruiting, all of that is involved. Go to michigan.rivals.com. At halftime, Michigan was up 41-27. I said, I'm going to go, and this is not a Sharpie, but I'm going to just advance them. And if they would have come out on the short end, I just would not have shown this screen. So there it is. The South. You've got Auburn and Creighton. Creighton took the hammer out to Louisville, smacked them around. You got Auburn, Creighton, and then it's Michigan, Texas A&M. Do we have a time for the game yet? Let's see if I can find it for you. Sometimes it's a little bit right when the final game ends, they throw it out there. And Michigan's Twitter feed is feeling it. They're saying by any means necessary. And here we go. We have a 5:15. Rip is on top of it. Good job, Rip. There it is. 5:15 on Saturday. We'll be here for that one. We'll see how Michigan does. And if they're able to get to the Sweet 16. Hey, thanks for staying up so late. NCAA tournament round 1. Round 2, we'll be watching basketball all day long. I'm going to be watching for the next 3 days. And so we'll be here after the game on Saturday. Thanks for watching. Michigan wins this one, and they advance. They win 68-65. Take care, and we will talk with you on Saturday after the game.